There's a strange electricity in the air around you lately. A quiet crackle beneath the surface that your intuition keeps brushing against. The kind that makes your skin remember every instinct you were born with. And although you haven't said it out loud, a part of you already knows something isn't right. That someone who should have been harmless has been circling your energy with an interest that feels too sharp, too observant, too eager to slip into the cracks you try so hard to keep hidden. Because, Scorpio, despite how deeply you read others, despite the way you watch the world from the shadows with a calm that unsettles even the bravest heart, despite the way you collect truths, the way others collect compliments, even you sometimes miss what's closest, especially when that threat wraps itself in familiarity, warmth, or false loyalty. And this person, this quiet observer of your rise, your resilience, your transformation is far closer than you want to believe. Close enough to know which memories you guard, which scars still burn, which silences are armor and which silences are wounds. Close enough to understand exactly how to touch the parts of you that still hurt, slipping their influence between the lines of your life so subtly that you've mistaken their poison for concern, their envy for interest, their manipulation for comfort. What unsettles them about you isn't your stillness, and it isn't your darkness. Either. They don't fear your intensity because it's sharp, they fear it because it's honest, because it's unbreakable, because every time life has thrown you into chaos, you've crawled out of the wreckage with your eyes clearer, your heart colder, your will stronger. And the very thing that should have destroyed you has become another layer of steel beneath your skin. A testament to the kind of strength they will never understand. They watch you rise in silence. Each rebirth of yours, a violent reminder of their own stagnation. Each step, you take a spotlight on everything they have failed to become. And they can't help resenting the fact that you move forward without asking permission, without chasing validation, without bending your truth to make anyone comfortable. They don't hate your confidence. They hate the fact that you earned it in battles no one saw. Battles that would have broken them completely. And right now, as these words find you, as your eyes move across this page or this screen, the person I'm describing is thinking about you not with longing, not with admiration, not with the affection they pretend to offer you, but with an envy that simmers like acid, an irritation that grows every time your name appears in a room, every time someone praises you, every time you succeed quietly, the way you always do, with a grace that makes others wonder how you manage to transform your pain into power again and again without ever losing control. You've sensed this energy before, your intuition, that instinctive Scorpio radar that never lies, has brushed against it more than once, whispering warnings you tried to rationalize away. Because you wanted to believe this person meant well. You wanted to believe your instincts were exaggerating things. You wanted to believe their smiles were genuine instead of calculated. But that discomfort you've been feeling is not imaginary, not paranoia, not overthinking. It is recognition. The soul-level awareness that someone familiar is carrying a hidden agenda and hiding it behind the softness they know you fall for. So I need you to breathe for a moment, to let the truth settle on your skin the way cold water wakes a sleeping body, because what I'm about to lay before you may shake your sense of safety, may pull open doors you've kept locked for months or years, may force you to rewrite the story you believed about certain connections in your life. It might sting. Yes, because betrayal always stings more when it comes wrapped in affection. But it will also liberate you in ways you haven't felt in a very long time, freeing you from the emotional fog someone has intentionally created around you. The darkness that has been clinging to your steps, the heaviness you couldn't quite explain, the sudden waves of doubt that never belonged to you, those things were not random. They were symptoms of someone else's envy pulling at your energy, trying to tether you to their limitations so you would never outgrow the version of you that made them feel superior. And now, Scorpio, It's time to see it clearly, to name it, to step out of the shadow they have been casting onto your path. Because the moment you acknowledge what's really happening is the moment their influence dissolves, their power fades, and you reclaim the intensity that has always been yours. The revelation may disturb you, but the freedom that follows will feel like breathing fire again. People rarely admit it out loud. But the truth is simple. Their jealousy toward you doesn't come from anything you've done intentionally. Scorpio, because you are not the type to flaunt your success or parade your victories in front of others. In fact, you hide more than you show. You reveal less than you feel. And you keep your achievements tucked beneath layers of silence and mystery. So the envy that surrounds you doesn't stem from arrogance or attention-seeking life. It comes from the unsettling contrast between how quietly you move and how powerfully you rise. You don't overwhelm a room with noise, you overwhelm it with presence. With the gravity of someone who has walked through fire without asking anyone to hold their hand. With the intensity of someone who learned early that trust must be earned. And that not everyone deserves access to your inner world. So when others look at you, they don't see a loud competitor, they see a silent threat. And that silence unnerves them. It's not because you have a wide social circle, because you don't. You are selective to the point of being misunderstood, and while others waste energy making connections that mean nothing, you choose your people the way a jeweler chooses gemstones. Examining every flaw, every facet, every intention, and this precision makes others uncomfortable, especially those who know they would never pass your internal test. People envy what they cannot reach. And with you, the closer they get, the more they realize how far away they truly are. Because you do not cling, you do not beg, you do not barter your worth for affection. And the independence you carry so naturally becomes a mirror, reflecting their own emotional dependency. But the deepest root of their envy, the one they would never confess even to themselves, is the way you succeed. You don't climb with applause, you climb with grit. You don't rise because someone opened a door. You rise because you built your own staircase in the dark. Your victories were born out of pain you never spoke of. Out of battles you fought alone while the world assumed you were simply distant. You have been forged in moments that would have shattered them. And that quiet, unbreakable resilience terrifies those who crumble under half the weight you've carried. They watch you walk forward with scars that look like constellations, with wounds that have healed into wisdom. And they cannot understand how someone who has suffered so deeply can still move with such control. Such sharpness. Such unwavering Determination. Their jealousy grows because your strength exposes their fragility. What they fear most, though, is not your past, it's your capacity to rise again and again. No matter how many times life tries to bury you, every time they think you're finally defeated, that this time the fall will be permanent, you come back stronger, colder, clearer. And the rebirth they witness in you becomes a kind of haunting reminder of their own inability to reinvent themselves. You embody transformation in a way that others only talk about. You descend into your own darkness and return with power they can't comprehend. And each resurrection of yours feels like a silent declaration that nothing and no one can hold you down for long. They fear your eyes. 2. Because there is something in the Scorpio gaze that strips away pretense, something surgical and ancient, something that sees beyond gestures and into intentions, something that leaves liars trembling and manipulators exposed. And this ability to read people without trying makes them uncomfortable. They know you understand more than you ever say, that you analyze more than you reveal, that you remember everything even when you pretend not to. And this quiet intelligence feels like a threat they cannot defend themselves against. They fear your mind, your emotional depth, your ability to stay composed while you are burning on the inside, your talent for rebuilding yourself from ashes without asking anyone for directions. They fear that they cannot hurt you the way you could hurt them, not because you would, but because you could. The power you hold is like a silent weapon they cannot see clearly, a force they sense but cannot measure. And that uncertainty alone is enough to make envy bloom in them like a toxin. Not everyone can handle someone as strong as you. Scorpio. Not everyone can stand beside a storm without feeling small. And not everyone can witness a person who carries both darkness and light with equal mastery without feeling intimidated. Their envy is not a reflection of your flaws. It is a confession of their own limits. You don't have to do anything for people to fear you. All you have to do is be exactly who you are. There are always signs. Faint at first, easy to dismiss when you're busy surviving your own storms. But the deeper you sink into your Scorpio awareness, the more clearly those signs begin to hum beneath the surface, because the person you're dealing with never truly celebrates you, never lets joy for your success rise naturally in their voice. And even when they say the words congratulations, there's always a sting hidden behind it. A quiet twist of tone, a subtle curl at the edge of a sentence meant to puncture your confidence. Something like, good for you, but don't get too comfortable. And every time they speak, your instinct feels that sharp little bite that tries to disguise itself as concern. And while you move through life collecting victories in silence, letting your growth speak for itself, they respond with a loud, almost desperate need to assert themselves, trying to outshine you in small, pitiful ways, bragging about meaningless achievements as if raising their volume will compensate for their lack of depth. And your quiet success becomes a mirror they can't bear to look into, because it reflects everything they are not. They use care the way a magician uses misdirection, sugarcoating their sentences with softness so you won't notice the poison at the bottom. And the moment you share an idea or plan, their first instinct is to wrap it in fear, doubt, or suspicion, saying things like, I'm just worried for you, or are you sure this is safe? But nothing about it is genuine concern, because every warning they give is aimed at shrinking your ambition, shrinking your fire, shrinking your power. And the way they phrase their doubts is too precise, too rehearsed, too conveniently timed for it to be accidental. Their pattern becomes even clearer when life rewards you, when you win, when something finally tilts in your favor. They vanish like smoke. Suddenly too busy, too tired, too unavailable to even send a message. But let a moment of heaviness hit you, let your mood drop just a little, and they reappear instantly, hovering around your vulnerability, not to comfort you, but to measure how close you are to breaking, how much your darkness still owns you. Because in your weak moments, they feel stronger. And nothing feeds their ego more than seeing a Scorpio temporarily dim. They love telling stories of failure, stories of people who tried and fell apart. Stories crafted to look like caution, but designed to settle into your subconscious like a curse, shaping your fears with examples that never uplift, never strengthen, never inspire. And if you listen closely, you'll realize they never share stories of triumph, never talk about people who succeeded despite the odds. Because hope doesn't serve their agenda, discouragement does. IUX. All these signs weave together into a truth you've been sensing for a long time. A truth that pulses beneath your skin every time their name crosses your mind. And although you wanted to believe you were wrong, that you were overthinking, that your Scorpio instincts were being too intense, the reality is simpler and sharper. You're not imagining anything. Your intuition has been right from the beginning. Your body recognized the threat long before your mind admitted it. And every cold shiver, every sudden discomfort, every subtle shift in your energy around them has been a message from the deepest part of you, whispering that something is off. Scorpio, you feel people long before you understand them. And this situation is no exception. You're not paranoid. You're perceptive. You're not imagining shadows. You're noticing who creates them. When it comes to Scorpio, The source of poisonous energy is rarely random and never distant. It is almost always someone who has been allowed too close. Someone who has stepped far enough into your emotional orbit to gather fragments of your truth. Someone who has touched your past or your trust or your silence in a way that gives them more access than they deserve. And this is where the danger lives. Because proximity to a Scorpio is power. And not everyone is strong enough or honest enough to handle that power without twisting it into something darker. If you were born between October 23rd and November 1st, the person who drains you most is usually tied to your roots. Someone in your family or someone who has always tried to manage you and control you, or mold you into a version that fits their expectations. And their grip on you is tightened by history rather than love, by habit rather than respect. Because when they look at you, they still see the child. They could manipulate, not the force you've become. For Scorpios born between November 2nd and November 12th, the toxic influence tends to come from old friends. People who knew you before you transformed, before you hardened, before you claimed your power, and because they are stuck with an outdated version of you in their minds, they project their insecurity onto your growth, feeling left behind, threatened, or overshadowed. And their jealousy is a direct reaction to the fact that they can no longer predict you or keep up with you. And if your birthday falls between November 13th and November 21st, the dangerous energy often comes from someone connected to intimacy, an ex-lover, à best entanglement. Someone who once tasted your depth and now resents that they no longer have access to it. Someone who still feels magnetically drawn to you but twisted by their own possessiveness. Someone who is obsessed not with who you are but with the parts of themselves they lost when you walked away. All of them share one thing in common. Their envy has nothing to do with the image you present to the world. Because you are not a performer. You are not someone who thrives on applause or validation. And you certainly don't flaunt your wins. They envy the things you hide, the strength you've built in silence, the resilience forged in darkness, the mysteries you protect behind quiet eyes, the emotional labyrinth they long to enter but can no longer access. They are threatened not by your visibility but by your invisibility. Not by what you show but by what you refuse to reveal. And this unreachability makes them restless, suspicious, hungry for control they cannot reclaim. Scorpio. Their envy is a hunger for the parts of you they can't touch. The parts you've locked away from the world, the parts only you can navigate. And that is precisely why their energy feels so heavy. They want something you will never give. The message for you now is clear, sharp, and aligned with your nature. You do not need to expose anyone, because exposing people is not your style. You read them, you understand them, you categorize them, and then you withdraw your energy so quietly that they don't realize you're gone until they feel the cold. Your power has always been in silence, not confrontation. And the most devastating thing you can do to someone who feeds on your attention is deny them access to your inner world. You don't need dramatic exits or emotional declarations. You simply pull back, close the gates of your heart, and move into the shadows where they cannot follow. And that absence becomes the loudest truth they've ever heard. They panic not because you lash out, but because you vanish. And nothing terrifies someone who needs your energy more than the moment you stop offering it. So hold your secrets tighter. Keep your plans locked behind your eyes. Trust your instincts even when they whisper truths you don't want to accept. Scorpio intuition is a compass forged in darkness. And it has never failed you. Not once. Not even when you ignored it. You do not need to fight anyone, because fighting implies equal power, and they are not your equals. All you must do is revoke their privilege to influence your emotional field, reclaim your boundaries, disengage from their expectations, and redirect your energy back into yourself, where it belongs. And when you do, something remarkable happens. The poison that once clouded your path begins to fade. The heaviness lifts, the clarity returns, and you begin to regenerate into a stronger, sharper version of yourself, exactly as you were always meant to do. A Scorpio does not lose. A Scorpio does not crumble. Scorpio watches, waits, withdraws, and then rises always higher, always colder, always wiser.